a journey for the future. In the kingdom of Baakuro, King Adisa ruled with wisdom and strength, his beloved wife Nurai by his side. Under his reign, the village flourished, its people united by a shared love for their land and culture. But the king's heart was heavy. A shadow loomed over his dreams of a brighter future for Baakuro, a future he once believed would be built by the young men they had sent abroad. Years ago, the elders and villagers had pooled their resources to send a group of promising young men to study in distant lands. The hope was simple: these men would learn the ways of the new civilization, bring back their knowledge, and transform Baakuro into a beacon of progress. But years passed, and the young men never returned. At first, there were letters filled with stories of their studies and promises to come back soon. Then, silence. When the villagers finally learned the truth, it struck like a bitter wind. The young men had chosen to stay abroad, chasing their own dreams, leaving their village behind. The people were devastated. The elders, feeling betrayed, vowed never to send anyone away again. Why invest in those who forget their roots, they said. Even the king's heart carried the sting of their disappointment. Yet deep within, he refused to give up on his vision of a better future for Baakuro. The new prince and a bold decision. Time moved on, as it always does. Prince Kwaku, the king's firstborn, grew into a fine young man, full of curiosity and energy. His sister, Princess Efwa, was his closest friend and confidant. Together, they roamed the village, learning from the elders, listening to stories, and dreaming of the day they would help their father lead the kingdom. But King Adisa knew that if Baakuro was to rise, they needed more than dreams. They needed knowledge from the outside world. He began to consider a daring plan, sending his own son, Prince Kwaku, abroad to study. The idea troubled Queen Nurai deeply. "Our son is our only heir," she said. "How can we send him to a land so far away? What if he doesn't return, like the others?" The king placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Kwaku is different," he said. "He understands the responsibility he carries. He will return, not just for us but for his people." Still, the queen's heart was uneasy. The elders' resistance. When the king presented his plan to the council of elders, their response was swift and harsh. "Have you forgotten the betrayal we faced before?" one elder said. "We cannot risk losing our future again." Another added, "The boy is your heir. If something happens to him, what will become of the kingdom?" But King Adisa was firm. "This is a risk we must take," he said. "If we close ourselves off from the world, we will never grow. I will do this alone if I must." And so, he did. A father's sacrifice. Determined to secure his son's future, the king began selling his personal belongings, precious artifacts, pieces of land, and even some of his royal robes. The villagers whispered among themselves, wondering if their king had lost his mind. But others saw the love and sacrifice behind his actions and offered small contributions of their own. At last, the day came for Prince Kwaku to leave. The entire village gathered to see him off, their mixed emotions reflected in their faces. Some were hopeful, others doubtful, and still others simply proud of the young man who represented their future. Before Kwaku boarded the ship that would take him to distant shores, his father pulled him aside. "Remember, my son," King Adisa said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You are not just my heir. You are the hope of this kingdom. Learn all you can, but never forget where you come from. Never forget your people." Kwaku nodded, his heart heavy but resolute. He embraced his father, his mother, and his sister one last time before stepping aboard. A future in the making. As the ship disappeared over the horizon, the village was quiet, each person lost in thought. The queen wept silently, comforted by Afua, while the king stood tall, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "This is just the beginning," King Adisa said, more to himself than anyone else. "Our future is out there, waiting to be shaped. In the years to come, the king would wait anxiously for news of his son, hoping and praying that Kwaku would succeed where others had failed. The story of Prince Kwaku's journey was far from over, and the village of Baakuro held its breath, waiting for the day their young prince would return with the wisdom to lead them into a new era.